Hey, I'm MC Hammer, and you're watching AMBY. Oh, wait, I'm not MC Hammer. I'm Chris Jericho, but you're still watching AMBY. Watch them all, twice, or I'll cry.
Hey everyone, it's Alicia from AMBY, and I would like to welcome you to an interview with a man, actually the GOAT, who I've been wanting to interview for so long. It is Chris Jericho.
It sounds like a mythical creature from like Greek mythology. The half man, half goat. That's kind of creepy.
But it's true, the greatest of all time.
Oh well, they made this shirt of like a goat with my face on it, and
Did they?
It was kind of creepy. It was like something out of Invasion of the Body Snatchers at the end, but
or like a super heavy metal band.
Well, yeah, I guess like a Swedish death metal band or something like that. But it worked out. It was good. So yes, I guess I am the GOAT to some people.
Well, we are here at Indigo Oshawa celebrating.
Indigoat.
Indigoat. Ooh, I like that. Celebrating the release of your latest book. No is a 4-letter word, How I Failed Spelling But Succeeded in Life. How are you feeling about its release? Because the reception to this has been absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really cool because when I decided to do this type of book, it's different from the other ones that were more autobiographical, whatever that word is. They're autobiographies, eh? But this one is a little bit more of a different theme to it, like a self-help type of a thing. The principles. And that basically rose because I didn't really think the world needed a fourth Chris Jericho autobiography within like 10 years. It's like, what am I, Nixon? Or
Give it
Nixon?
11, right?
Yeah. So I thought that maybe people, I'm taking my shoes off because I'm comfortable.
Get comfy.
People always ask me, like, how did you make it in wrestling? How did you make it in music? How do you do all the things that you do? So I thought I'd put together, like you said, the 20 principles of how I succeeded in life and did all these different things and made all these dreams come to fruition. And now that it's actually out and you can see that people are reading it and going, wow, that really applies to my life, or I'm going through this, or I don't need this type of negativity, and I'm learning this from your book, it's actually really gratifying because writing a book takes a long time.
Of course.
And it's rewrite, change this word, debate whether it should be and or but for like an hour, and I'm not even kidding.
Wow.
So when you finally finish it, you just hand it, you go, just take the damn thing already, I don't even want it anymore. But when it actually does come out and you see the reaction that people are giving it and the reaction that it's getting, it's really a cool feeling.
Well, for me, I was given so many no's when I first started, and it's so gratifying now to just get those yeses because I didn't give up. I didn't I didn't take the whole no for an answer.
Well, and that's why I wanted to call it No as a 4-letter word, because that just popped in my head right off the bat when I was talking with my literary agent, and he was like, you should do kind of a motivational book. And I was like, well, No is a 4-letter word. And I Googled it. I cannot believe nobody used that title, because it really is like no really is a profanity. It's a dirty word. It's easily thrown out. And it's easily accepted, which is the worst part. And I never accepted no. I always wanted to dissect it and turn it inside out and try and figure out how can I turn that no into a yes. And 9 times out of 10, when you think of it that way and take the negative and turn it to a positive, you'll usually get what you want out of it.
Is that something that you've always lived by ever since you were young, or did that kind of come a little bit later?
No, I mean, pretty much. There was this documentary that I saw. Like, I decided I wanted to be a wrestler and I wanted to be in a rock and roll band when probably I was about 13 or 14. And there was this documentary that I saw where Paul Stanley from Kiss, who wrote the foreword for the book 30 years later, said, the only people that tell you can't do something are the ones that have failed. I'm not going to tell you that you can't do something because I did it. You can do it. And when he said that, he was like talking directly to me, like you can do it. And so I was like, why do people care so much about what I want to do with my life? What business is it? I don't need the negativity of like, you want to be a wrestler, you're too small. You want to be in a rock and roll band, that's impossible. I'm like, I disagree. And
kind of gives you more drive, right?
Well, yeah, and also just to realize like there's so much negativity, and when you can kind of cut that fat away and just get to the lean meat of the issue, you can usually get through it and make it happen. But I think a lot of times people really listen to that negativity and feel, well, so-and-so said it's not going to work. But just forget all that stuff and just do it, and that's where these principles came from with all the different examples. And then that's actually one of the principles is the Keith Richards principle, where I had this opportunity to meet Keith in New York City, and with the assist of Jimmy Fallon and Vince McMahon, I made it happen. But there was a lot of hoops I had to jump through. It was a once-in-a-lifetime chance. But instead of looking at the reasons why it wouldn't happen, I focused on the reasons why it could and did it. And that's something you can use in any aspect of life, not just in meeting Keith Richards,
Well, aside from the book release, it's also an exciting time to be you because Fozzy will soon be releasing a new record.
Yeah. Yeah, the record's called Judas, and the single Judas is #1 on rock radio.
It's been for a while,
in the States
too.
for 5 weeks, yeah. So, once again, we have this band, and so many people at first are like, oh, it's a wrestler, it's a singer, what? And it's as if I can't have talent in 2 different things or 10 different things or whatever that may be. And here we are now with the #1 song, and the band is just gone through the roof, and you can see the difference instantly in the perception and in the realities of what happens when you have that quote unquote hit song. Because we've had successful tunes in the past, but never anything like this. So it's a good time to be in Fozzy for sure.
I really feel like Judas is about being a rebel and almost bringing somebody down with you. So when did the point come for you where you wanted to kind of say you had Judas in your mind? That's my perception of it.
Well, that's the thing, and that's the beauty of lyrics, is you can interpret it any way you want. The way that I always saw it was that everybody makes the wrong decision, and you know it's the wrong decision. You're basically betraying your better instincts, so it's the Judas in your mind. But, I mean, I think that's just something you live with as you go through life, knowing either using, like you said, using it to fire you and using it to fuel you and give you that passion and that drive to say, you know what, screw you, I'm going to show you that I can do it. Or I never looked at it as a vengeful thing. I looked at it more of like, boy, you must feel stupid. Like, geez, I bet you feel dumb that you said that or that you bet against me. And all those sort of things can benefit you, but never use it negatively. That son of a bitch, I'm going to show him, because that turns it bad. Make it like, oh, I'm going to show him. Yeah, exactly. And that's why my books are never. I'm never bitter in my books. And there are people that I don't like that I could take it out on, but what's the point? In the end, I won. So why would I want to bury somebody and trash talk them and be bitter, when for the most part I've done pretty good and I've had a pretty cool life, not being that way. So why start now?
Did you go through times where you had some of those people who were doubting you kind of coming back once they saw the success and almost messaging you like, hey, how have you been, Chris?
Yeah,
going forward?
But not really. I mean, like I said, like I'm pretty ruthless, like as far as if somebody gives me those vibes, I'll just cut them out, but not in a way where it's like, F off.
Yeah.
I just don't respond, and you kind of get the message, But I've always surrounded myself with some pretty positive people, so when good things happen, it's not like anybody's coming out of the woodwork, because they can't probably find me at this point because they've been blocked. Anyways, that's the good thing about social media. You just block people, and then someone will go, and I don't even remember why, but someone will go, can you unblock me? I'm like, well, if I block you in the first place, then there's a reason. Yeah. So the answer is no, you're a lifetime block.
Well, you've had some phenomenal nicknames over the years, so I was wanting to do a little this or that to see which ones were kind of resonating with you the most now. So I'm just going to go one or the other, and you just let me know which one you're digging the most. All right, so we have the highlight of the night or your role model.
If I was a rock and roll band, both of those would be songs that you might have released as a single when the album came out, but you never play it live. It's like a AC/DC song called Money Talks, or like Metallica, like The Day That Never Comes, or Saint Anger or something. It's the best you had at the time, but it's not a classic. So I would go, both of those are like, meh.
All right, how about Cowboy or Lionheart?
Well, yeah, the Cowboy was a mess from the start because I never wanted to do it. So Lionheart's kind of a classic one before I got into American wrestling. But in Japan, people still call me Lionheart or Hato.
Okay.
Lion Hato.
Lion Hato?
Hato, because that's how it's pronounced, hot.
Okay.
They don't have the R sound, and the T sound has an O at the end of it. So Hato, you can say that, Hato.
For the next one, I have Y2J or the Ayatollah of rock and roll.
Yeah, I mean, Y2J is kind of the classic, you know what I mean? But Ayatollah still, people still use that. I'm like, is that still allowed in this day and age? Is that politically correct now or whatever? Totally stole that from the Road Warrior, Mel Gibson, the Road Warrior, where the guy says he's the Ayatollah of rock and roll. And I just kind of threw it out one night, and
stuck.
You never know what's going to stick. People just really enjoyed that one. So to this day, I still had to rewrite a press release today that used that. I'm like, let's use Y2J instead. You obviously aren't that up to date on what you're talking about.
For the last comparison, the most charismatic showman to enter your home via a television screen or the self-proclaimed living legend?
I'll probably go through the first one, which is very long, because the Living Legend one, I got sued for that by a guy called Larry Zabisco, who apparently was the living legend in the 70s. I'm like, well, this is the 90s now, or the 2000s, or whatever, but had to actually go through a court process and dissertations and all this sort of stuff. So not a big fan of that name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's also really exciting because just the other day you shared that there's going to be the Chris Jericho's Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea. And that was really exciting because you're going to have so many different things going on, from the podcasting, wrestling, rock and roll. What was it like planning something like that? I'm sure that you're just so stoked.
The shits. I mean, it's funny because we're announcing the lineup tomorrow.
Okay.
And I just got the final poster. I'm like, I can't believe so many people are involved. Like it's either going to be the biggest thing ever, or I'm going to be doing the, cleaning up the camera for you next time I see you and polishing the lights. But it's something that I really believe in, and once again, taking a chance. We played the Kiss Cruise a couple of years ago.
As you talk about in the book.
As I talked about on the book, and the moment I walked off the ship, I called our manager and said, we need to do a rock and wrestling cruise. And it was a great idea, but then how do you get it done?
Yeah.
So
how do you bring it to fruition?
2 years later, almost exactly 2 years later, after all the trials and tribulations and even losing our boat at one point, don't ask, literally like a week before we were going to announce we lost the boat, or the boat was stolen from us. Anyways, point being, all that's in the past, and now here we are about ready to release it. And if nothing else, once again, it's an idea that I had, that I believed in, that I worked on, that I didn't take no for an answer, and there was a lot of no's and a lot of reasons why it wouldn't work, including, well, what happens to the ring? What if it slides into the water? I'm like, I played on the freaking Kiss Cruise on a ship with like 20 tons of amplification and, all this stuff, and that thing ain't moving anywhere. So do whatever you did to the stage, to the wrestling ring.
Yeah.
If not, I'll stand there and hold it. It's not moving. But to convince the powers that be and engineering, assessments and all this other thing. Anyways, here we are, and we're about ready to announce, and it's going to be one of the greatest vacations you could ever go on if you're a rock and roll and wrestling fan.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. And it's whatever I'm into, and I've built basically like my podcast on is on this ship. Music, wrestling, paranormal, comedians. I mean, everything. We got everything on there, and I think it's going to work. I really do.
So you said fans can sail away, man.
Sail away. It's a Cruise of Jericho. Sail away, man.
I'm glad you brought up the podcast there, because Talk is Jericho has had so many incredible guests on there. But is there any brand that you would really love to pick that you haven't had on, or have you pretty much had everybody?
Well, no, I haven't. I mean, my goal from the start was for it to be a mainstream podcast. I never wanted to focus just on one thing. I remember my boss at first was like, well, it's got to be more wrestling. I'm like, dude, you got the wrong guy. I can't talk about wrestling all the time. It drives me nuts. I'm not that big of a fan. I love it, but not, that specifically. And here we are now. It is one of the biggest podcasts in the world of any genre. And the 400th episode is coming up. Gene Simmons will be the 400th guest.
Nice.
And, it's one of those things where I really have a huge blanket of stars that have done it in wrestling and anywhere else. Mike Tyson, Larry King, William Shatner, Dennis Miller, all those type of guys. But there's so many more. Keith Richards, there's one. Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney did a podcast. I'm like, well, why isn't he doing mine? Like, that's how I couldn't even listen to it. I'm like, I don't want to listen to him on that guy's podcast because he should be on mine. So anyway, all of those, I want to build it to where if someone is doing press, if someone's doing an interview, my show is a go-to. I'm sure that's what you want as well. And you're here at the back room of the bookstore, and you went and made it happen, and that's what you got to do. And I will do it. And done really well with it. And some weeks, I'll just go, like, for the first time ever, I did a podcast on my own during Hurricane Irma. I live in Tampa, so blowing wind and rain. I put my little Zoom recorder around my neck with my microphone cords and walked out into the rain and talked a little bit and just what's going to happen here, like those idiots that you see in the middle of a hurricane that are holding on to the thing. Well,
metal pole.
Yeah, and so good news and bad news is that a tree didn't fall through my house. That's the good news. The bad news is it didn't really make for much of an exciting podcast, but it still was pretty interesting. But it gives you the license to be creative, and that's what I love about it.
Well, the thing is, if you don't dream big, it's never going to happen, right?
Well, yeah, and just having a podcast in general is just fun. It's a good opportunity to talk to people that you don't get a chance to talk to much, talk to people that you've never talked to before, make new friends. And just, like I said, be creative. Think of different mishmashes of people from different areas that enjoy the same topic and stick them in there, or take somebody who's known for wrestling and have them talk about paranormal, or vice versa. It's a good, people enjoy doing my show because it is different from the most. I don't ask the same questions, nor do I want to, because I know what that feels like after doing 10,000 interviews. You're doing a great job, by the way.
Thank you so much. I'm also really enjoying the web series that you have, But I'm Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
It's totally different and out there, and I enjoy that fact of it.
Thank
when you're
you.
doing things like that, very comedic, especially in the ring with that run you had with Kevin Owens, a lot of funny spots. Is it hard for you to keep it together? Is it just natural to you
I
now?
just commit to it. It's easy for me to do that. It's another principle in the book. It's the Groundlings principle, always commit. But I'm Chris Jericho. Once again, not to be on the same, groundhog trap or whatever. Groundhog trap? Hamster wheel. Which is also known as a groundhog. If a groundhog goes into a hamster wheel, it is trapped. But but I'm Chris Jericho. Came up with the idea in 2006.
Oh, you're sitting on it for a while.
Sold it. Yeah. Had the first season in 2014. Won a bunch of awards. Got a bunch of downloads, and that was it. Until about a year ago when CBC got involved. And then we have season 2 coming out. Mm-hmm. So it took 8 years for season 1. 4 years for season 2. So hopefully in 2 years we can get started with season 3.
All that matters is that you got there.
Well, that's what I mean. And now it's like CBC, like my friends are showing me, I live in Tampa now, but they'll show me the commercial that's running for But I'm Chris Jericho, which is a digital series, but it's airing on CBC national TV. So they're really behind it. And we had a blast doing season 2, and hopefully that leads to more.
Before you had mentioned the paranormal, I know you also love horror films. You have a lot of really cool tattoos relating to that. But to you, what is the ultimate horror film?
I mean, there's so many that I like. I mean, I've been a zombie fan long before the zombie trend.
Yeah.
I think Dawn of the Dead is pretty quintessential, and actually the remake is pretty good too. But I think the scariest horror movie that still gets me is Halloween. For the time that it was made, it still holds up. It's still not so much as what you see as what you don't see that makes it scary. That's still one of those ones that, if you're watching and you hear something behind you, you're kind of looking. But I'm a fan of the B movies. I'm a fan of J horror, of giallo. I just had Eli Roth on my podcast talking about slasher films, and we had hour and a half of conversation. It could have been a day and a half. So always looking for the next good horror movie. Over gory movies don't really impress me because I've seen it all.
Okay.
But I still like a good gore fest once in a while. But I like more of the storytelling. I'm still so much about the story. That to me is still what I get off on, even in the wrestling business. I do it because I like the matches are fine, but it's the tale that gets you there that really intrigues me.
I'm sure it's the same with lyricism too, right?
Yeah, it is. And I used to write a lot of fantasy lyrics and imagery, imagery of the mind, and then sometimes just to Judas is our biggest song, and it's about lyrics that everybody can relate to. It's being very personal and very much about emotions and feelings, not so much about a D-Day soldier, which is a great song that I wrote, but nobody knows what it's like to be a soldier in D-Day rushing the beaches of Normandy. Everyone knows what it's like to be betrayed. So that kind of works to your advantage as well.
Well, you have a bunch of fans out there who are so excited for you to start signing their books and saying hello. So,
well, it's funny. It's typical Jericho, too, in that they say, we sold out of all your books. I'm like, well, how many did you bring in? They're like 150 or whatever. I'm like, you should have brought in 300. Oh, yeah. Like, I'm never happy, right? I should be happy that we sold it out, but it's like, why don't we have more? But, I enjoy doing these signings because it gets a chance to meet the friends of Jericho. Yeah. They're more than just fans. Meet the people that kind of keep my lights on and keep the bills paid. And it's a blast because I did it before. I remember I waited in line to meet Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and now here we are 30 years later, and he's the first guy that I brought on to my cruise because I want to have him on Talk as Jericho. And I thought, what a great way to do it in front of a live audience on a cruise ship. I'm not just going to go to his house or to a studio. I'll do it all the way, live on a cruise ship. So that's one of the things you'll see Jericho and Ricky Steamboat on the
I love that. Now you're on the other side of the table signing. That's brilliant.
Yeah. I'm still always a fan, and I never forget that. And when I get a chance to talk to Gene or Paul, or you mentioned Metallica, I had Lars on, and Lars and I are friends, but still, doing the show, it's like, I got fucking Lars of Metallica here. My 15-year-old self is freaking out. And that's, when you can do that, like you're doing, that's a pretty cool place to be, where you go from being a fan to being a peer to being an equal to doing what you want to do, and you're in charge, so it's a good way to be. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. I just want to say, I don't want to get super into it, but you've been such an inspiration to me since I can remember, and my favorite wrestler. So thank you so much.
Thank you. That's good. I didn't know you say that to all the guys.
No, I really don't.
Really?
You can watch a bunch of these.
Okay.
Don't say it.
Well, I
thank
appreciate
you so much.
that. Thank you. I'm glad we got to do this.
Me too. And remember, to everybody viewing, you can visit us at amusicblogget.com for all exclusive interviews, features, videos, and
watch them all
so
twice.
much more. We'll see ya.